Hi, this is Virginia Birkencotter with ACF Solutions. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're really looking forward to sharing a success story of one of our clients and partners, the College of St. Scholastica. The title of this webinar is Leveraging Salesforce to Improve Student Services. And helping us today, we have panelists from the College of St. Scholastica. We have Roberta Oberfiller. She's the Director of Business Technology. Linda Rogentine. She's the Director of the One Stop Student Services. And Mary Kiro. She's the Associate Director from One Stop Student Services. And with the ACF team, we have David Bruce. He's a Senior Consultant and also was integral in the implementation at CSS. And I'm Virginia Birkencotter. I'm the Delivery Director over the Higher Education Practice. And so we thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and jump into the presentation. We have plenty of time at the end to answer your questions. So feel free to post those and we'll get to those. But we'll jump right in. But before we do that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about ACF Solutions. ACF was founded in 2003, and we are only focused on the higher education and nonprofit sectors. We've implemented over 600 projects with higher education and nonprofits. We're a Salesforce.org preferred partner and have been since 2005. And we're pleased to now be a silver consulting partner with Salesforce, and we received that in 2015. So as we get started, I'm going to hand over the presentation to Roberta, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the College of St. Scholastica. Roberta?
Thank you, Virginia, and thanks to everyone who has joined us today. Over 100 years ago, Mother Scholastica Kirst stood in a field of daisies on the hill overlooking Lake Superior in Duluth, Minnesota, and envisioned an institute of higher learning that has become the College of St. Scholastica. This pioneering spirit has prevailed as we have transformed from an all-girls institution to a co-ed college in the late 60s under the leadership of then-President, the late Sister Mary Richard Boo, to today where we have a multitude of men's and women's athletics programs, the only collegiate-level men's football team with a Benedictine nun on its coaching staff, our sister Lisa, who coaches the kicking and punting team, are delivering programs in multiple formats to over 4,300 students across 15 campus locations in Minnesota and Arizona, and are about to welcome our first lay female president later this summer. Our story today focuses on how we are leveraging the Salesforce solution we developed with our partners at ACF as we transition our student support services to meet the ever-evolving needs of this dynamic student population. As we see on the next slide, this project focused on two of our newer student support models. Our online advisor team was formed at the inception of the online program. While this team's primary focus is academic advising for the online students, there was initially considerable overlap into what we call the business side of being a student. This decentralized team is located in multiple locations and has minimal face-to-face interaction with their students. As our online, graduate, and extended programs grew, we recognized that the traditional support model of providing customer service in individual offices such as financial aid, student accounts, and registrar was not meeting student needs. Our traditional students also expressed frustration with the process of bouncing from office to office to get issues resolved. In response, we formed the One Stop Student Services Department and transitioned support from individual offices to a centralized physical location, as well as a portal page that consolidates business transactions into one web location and provides step-by-step guided checklists customized to various student populations. Our one-stop goal of supporting student success is designed to enable students to self-manage the business of being a student and minimize the time they must spend on these tasks to allow greater focus on academics, student life, and to accommodate the busy lifestyles of our non-traditional students. While conceptually this sounded good, the lack of a common CRM solution presented a number of challenges, as we see on the next slide. The college had been an early adopter and development partner for the Ellucian BRM product in our enrollment management area. Our initial desire was to expand this to One Stop, but testing found its performance lacking in this fast-paced environment, and then the product was sunsetted by the vendor. We began a search for a replacement CRM and selected Salesforce with a managed enrollment management package from TargetX. Our immediate need was to quickly bring enrollment management live on the new solution. In the interim, we recognized a number of pain points experienced by one-stop counselors and online advisors, including the use of multiple systems to record transactions. This tracking of a high volume of interactions via a variety of methods prevented the transparency into student interaction history that was needed. This led to slower staff response times and increased student frustration. While our students were able to come to one source for assistance, our staff was having to filter through multiple sources to resolve issues. In July 2014, we formed our Salesforce Student Success Project team, consisting of the director of One Stop, the director of our virtual campus, a one-stop counselor, an online advisor, a financial aid counselor, and the IT project manager. As the project progressed, subgroups were created that included the majority of the one-stop and online staff and the IT technical resources required for the project. The core project team conducted gap analysis and focus group retreats to identify the needs that we show on our next slide. Key to the project was the identification of what we call our dream screen that Linda and Mary will demonstrate a little later in this presentation. This is the common shared view into each of our students that provides one-stop counselors and online advisors a quick snapshot of student information from our Banner ERP system, as well as the all-important interaction history for each student. Counselors and advisors who served on the Dream Screen subcommittee were tasked with dreaming big. The concept they designed not only displayed student information and interactions, but allowed staff to perform tasks such as quickly verifying student identity or authorization to speak to parents or guardians, quickly viewing current, past, and future enrollment status, and generating activity history, call tasks, or cases. To envision how a counselor might use the Dream Screen, let's assume I'm an online advisor for the health informatics programs. I get an email from a student who is about to graduate. Please call me, it's kind of urgent. Puzzled by the frantic message, I pull up the student's record in Salesforce. At a glance, I can see the enrollment dashboard is showing the credits I would anticipate, and it's all yellow, indicating that the student is enrolled as planned. I hover over the activity history and holds related list and do not see anything there that is a cause for alarm. This takes me a matter of seconds. I can see the student lives in West Virginia, so using the local time app, I can see what time it is where she is living and determines that this is a good time to call. On the phone, the student tells me her employer has offered to pay for her family and herself to travel to Duluth so she can walk in the graduation ceremony. She had indicated when she applied to graduate that she was not going to walk and wants to know how she can change this, secure tickets for her family to attend, and plan their Duluth visit. I tell her that I will follow up with the registrar's office on the graduation change and send her some information about places to stay and things to do in Duluth. I assign myself a call task to follow up with the student in 3 days. I also know that this student is being promoted into a leadership position by her employer after graduation, and I want to keep in touch with her as she is a rising star in the HIM world. So I assign myself a check-in task 4 months after graduation. This call has sparked a couple of other thoughts. Obviously, her employer is supportive of their employees' education, so I want to make sure we are cultivating a relationship with that employer and assign a task to reach out to our recruiting staff about this. And since this is a strong human interest story that I think our communications department may be interested in, I assign myself another task to talk to them. Now I'm ready to get on with my day. My first task of the day is to look at my watch list. This is a report of students who are struggling for a variety of reasons, and I want to keep in close contact with them. To my dismay, a name pops up on the list that I did not expect to see. I click into the student's record and alarmed to see that his dashboard is a rainbow of colors, telling me that he is dropping and withdrawing from courses, appears to be stopping out of the next term, and has gotten totally off track. From the dashboard, I can drill down into the course detail to see if there are failing grades or other indicators of trouble. From the dream screen, I can look at the activity history, holds, and financial aid as I try to paint a picture of what may be going on. I call the student and learned that although he was only 2 terms away from graduation and doing well, his wife is expecting their 3rd child and has not been feeling well, and there has been staff turnover at his work, causing him to have to put in extra hours. These life circumstances have contributed to his getting off track. We discuss what we need to do to turn things around so he can successfully complete his degree, and I assign myself a follow-up task to check in with him. User stories such as this example helped us identify the basic needs and develop a case statement that we used as we proceeded to select a development partner. The next slide outlines the timeline and considerations involved in our selection process. Critical to the success of this project was how the one-stop online solution would play with our existing managed solution. Another critical decision point was whether we pursued another managed package or engaged with an implementation partner. Based on the increased comfort level with Salesforce of our internal IT staff and the flexibility desired in this solution, we opted to go with an implementation partner. ACF's response, flexibility, and the astute questions they asked during the selection process made us feel they were the perfect fit for this project. ACF's approach to this development was not only to satisfy the immediate needs, but to build a solution with an eye to the future expansion of Salesforce into other areas at our college. Now, David Bruce from ACF will discuss the solution that was developed as we advance to this next slide.
Thank you, Roberta. This is David Bruce with ACF, and what you're looking at here is an ERD diagram that sort of is a picture of all the essentially the data tables in Salesforce called objects on one side, and the integration from the banner system into Salesforce on the other. We had a one-way integration that definitely simplified things. Back in the ERD diagram on the left there, the blue boxes show you what standard Salesforce objects we were using. The contact has the red named students. The TargetX managed package renames contacts as students, and accounts are renamed as schools. And the green objects are objects that were installed with the nonprofit starter pack. That's something that many schools and nonprofits will use. And then the white objects are those that ACF built out to store the student enrollment data. Our experience and then the needs of the school dictated exactly which objects we were going to include, including an enrollment object, whether the student was enrolled or not, their term that the course was in the course, and some other data, including holds and financial aid information that we'll go into later. Many of these objects appear on the dream screen that you've heard about as related lists. So you'll hear that coming up a lot. So when you're looking at a screen, you can see these related records, and they typically refer to these boxes here in the ERD diagram. This project began for me with mapping the enrollment data into Salesforce. So as we were identifying the data that existed in Banner, we needed to find out how it was going to fit into Salesforce, and so there was a little bit of an iterative process there, working through some technical issues there, and then getting the education data to present itself right required some more data mapping, and again working with these tables shown in the white here. After that was done, then we built out the case management system, and we had to work out how we were going to manage with their operations and other departments that didn't have logins to Salesforce, and we used the email tool for that. And then it became sort of clear that creating a case in every situation didn't make the most sense. So and a lot of times a student will reach out and their question can be answered right there and then, and those are considered one and done things. And we decided that using Salesforce's activities just to log that event made sense. So that also made the reporting a little bit more difficult, but it was easily overcome. So we manage tracking the activities that are the one and done issues, as well as these cases that will interact with other departments or take longer to answer and may have multiple parts. The process that we went through is, as we started to tackle a feature, I would draft something out and present a demo of it, and the school would look at it and say yay or nay, or can you do this? And I would maybe make an iteration or two, but the school would quickly take it on and own it and build out the rest of the little tweaks that they needed to do. And I think that was a very successful approach. It helped give them ownership and take ownership and learn Salesforce and the tools that were easily managed by them. And that's, I think, part of the success of this project. And I think with that, I'll hand this back to Roberta to explain some of the benefits the school has realized.
Thank you, David. We've realized efficiencies with our solution, including the dream screen that provides quick access to the most commonly needed data. Defining a dream screen was particularly challenging for the two groups. There were several renditions as we pared it down from the Dream Big version to a final version that focused on displaying only the most critical data needed by the one-stop counselors and online advisors for the majority of their interactions with students. Our goal was not to reproduce our ERP data in Salesforce, and we estimate we currently integrate about 25% of the initial Dream Big set of data elements that were defined. The collaboration to reduce and revise the scope of the dream screen was impressive and resulted in a solution that has satisfied both areas. This collaboration has carried forward as interactions are shared to enhance the student experience and staff efficiencies. As noted by Linda, our Director of One Stop, on the next slide, quick access to student interactions has proven to be an asset to our counselors, as they are able to review previous conversations before offering recommendations or solutions. An unintentional side benefit of the project has been the adoption of the solution by our School of Business and Technologies. Our dean relayed one of her first experiences with a student who had stopped out and was interested in re-enrolling to finish his MBA degree. She was able in a matter of seconds to see in Salesforce what courses he needed to complete and work out a re-enrollment and academic plan that led to his successful graduation. Prior to Salesforce, this would have taken 30 to 60 minutes of research and required the busy dean and student to attempt to reconnect to complete what they were able to accomplish in one short phone call. SBT began with their online programs and quickly grew their use of Salesforce throughout the department, with the dean and all department chairs now using the solution. I'll now turn the presentation over to Linda and Mary from our One Stop department. They will provide a demo of their day-to-day use of the solution.
Thank you, Roberta. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Linda. Mary and I are going to do a little tag teaming while we walk you through a demonstration of how our One Stop counselors use the Salesforce tool to help us in our day-to-day jobs. So the next slide displays a picture of my landing page. It's the first thing that I open every morning. I'm able to see at a quick glance any open tasks that I have assigned to me or anything that I've scheduled for myself to follow up on. I have 3 reports within the dashboard section to help me review case trends. I'm able to see what months we peaked and what types of inquiries prompted a need to open a case. I'm also able to see at a glance if any cases are over 3 days old, which either Mary or I would follow up on with the appropriate counselor for resolution. On the left-hand side of the page, in the grayed out area, I'm able to see the most recent items that I opened at a glance. On the next slide, I'd like to share with you how easy it is to use the functionality in Salesforce. In my opinion, it's one of the best features in Salesforce is how easy it is to navigate. I'm able to quickly access a student's record by using various searching capabilities as displayed in the upper left corner. We could use the student's name, their ID, their email address, or phone number. After choosing which option to use, we simply click Enter and select the appropriate student, which brings us to the Dream Screen page displaying the student's information. And now I'll hand the demo over to Mary Carroll, who was instrumental in designing our Dream Screen page.
So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Dream Screen. As you can see by this slide, we have a lot of information at our fingertips. We could access the information by scrolling down our page for related lists, or we could hover over the lists, as well as we have the ability to hide any of those lists. So we're going to go on to the next screen, or the next slide, and take a closer look at our Dream Screen. Our committee worked together to select what items were most important for both one-stop and online advisors. So for purposes of this demo, I'd like to introduce our student Shane to help us tell our story with his Dream Screen. Let's say that Shane comes into the one-stop office without any identification, has a question about his account. A counselor will search on his name, quickly see Shane's picture, and the person behind the counter are the exact same person. We can also see some general information about him, such as his ID number, advisor, enrollment status, address, and phone number. One Stop then can answer his question with confidence, knowing that we are talking to the right person. So another scenario would be that Shane's mom would call to ask a question about his account, and we need to check FERPA. This slide, we could scroll down, and a one-stop counselor can access the link directly to our BDM, or Banner Document Imaging, FERPA form. On the next slide, we're able to see that Shane did complete the FERPA form. He authorized his mom, and we're able to see what areas of his account we're authorized to talk to her about. Next step, we can begin working with Shane's mom. So Linda will take over the next sets of slides to talk about other areas on our Dream Screen.
I'd like to bring us back to the top of the Dream Screen page. Mary talked about the layout of the page, and I'd like to focus a little bit on the enrollment section. At a glance, our users can see how the students were registered, whether they registered themselves, were registered by staff, if they withdrew, or if they dropped. We use abbreviated registration codes, for example, DC for drop-free census, DD for drop-free term, and so on. Our online advisors routinely use this screen to quickly see if a student has dropped a course or if they're enrolled. This section is not generally used by our one-stop counselors. However, it is a perfect example of how well our team collaborated on what were the top items that we wanted to pull from our ERT. By selecting the graph area, we are able to drill deeper into the enrollment section to view detailed information, as we see on the next slide. Here we're able to see many different options for running quick reports. We could sort by term code, or we could sort items by the semester, by a specific time frame. The next slide shows how one specific term is identified for the student's record. So as we scroll down Salesforce, we receive this information, and as we can see, Shane's enrollment record itemizes the various courses that he took during term 2012-30. We were allowed to display only 8 columns of information, and tailoring the list to 8 items really forced our team to think about what the most important useful information was to have at a glance when advising students. Our online advisors use this section on a daily basis. This list can be sorted in many ways, either by the grouped items displayed at the top of the page or by the various titles across the top, such as the subject, course number, etc. And now I'll return the demo back over to Mary.
So we're back at the top of our dream screen in Shane's account. Our team did decide that we would like to see a quick snapshot of the student's record, and as you can see, we have many related list items to choose from. So the next slide, the one-stop counselors and online advisors with this cases, activity history, and open activities, we can see all of the interactions that we have had with Shane. First, the cases. These are interactions that need some research, but we can see at a glance who talked with Shane, what his question was about. You can also see that we know when and if the case was resolved. Activity history, very similar to cases, but different. Usually these are interactions that are quick answers, fondly referred to in our office as one and done's, and you've heard that before as earlier in the presentation. We see much of the same information we have in the case list. The last item on this slide, open activities, is a list of follow-up reminders for one-stop counselors, a reminder that they need maybe to assign a task to another Salesforce user on campus, or assign a task to themselves to do some follow-up work for Shane's questions. The next slide is primarily used by our online advisors, and Shane has any questions about his academic record, his advisor can hover over or scroll down to see a list of his enrolled courses, his enrollment status. Advisors can see what type of student he is he a main campus or online student, what his major is, how he is registering for his classes, etc. So on the next slide is a snapshot of all of Shane's holds, current and expired or satisfied. So we're going to say that Shane calls One Stop wondering why he can't view his transcript on his Banner web account. The One Stop counselors can hover over the holds list, see that he does indeed have a transcript diploma hold, which typically means in our world he has a remaining balance on his student account. He can take care of his balance, his hold will then be satisfied, he can now see his transcript. The the One Stop counselor records the interaction, which leads us to the next slide of the 2 main ways we record interactions with students and guests.
As Mary mentioned, we use the activity history field to log a call, or in other words, to track an interaction that doesn't require research or handoff. These are the one and dones. Our office uses this feature the most to capture interactions with our students and guests. By hovering over the activity history, we can see the previous interactions and prior documented conversations if needed. To capture a new interaction, we simply select the Log a Call radio button and we're brought to a detailed page of input items. So for purposes of this demonstration, let's assume that Shane calls to inquire about his award letter. He says he hasn't seen it. The counselor pulls up his record, sees in the financial record section on the dream screen that his award letter was written, informs Shane that he should have received an email notifying him that his award letter is ready for retrieval, and the counselor guides Shane to his one-stop page on our portal. Shane finds the award letter on his page, opens it, and hopefully enthusiastically thanks the counselor for their time. So as we're finishing the conversation, the counselor logs the call as shown on the next slide. The interaction defaults to the user as the owner. We select the type as phone, the subject field as financial aid awards. We can add detailed comments about the interaction, where we can close with an abbreviated comment in the call result field. The call result field is the field that's displayed on the activity history dream screen page when we hover over that activity history field. And this could really prove useful to review by the counselor prior to speaking to the student about their inquiry. Our counselor team is very diligent about choosing the appropriate type of interaction as well as the subject. Both of these fields allow a drop-down of choices, and they're really extremely important as they become the basis for pulling our metrics for benchmarking purposes. On the next slide, I'd like to just show what the different types and subject sections that we've identified. We tailored our list of types of interactions on the lower left to only a few main items, simply for reporting purposes. We're really interested in capturing the ways in which the student reaches out to our office, whether it's via email, telephone, or at the front counter. The subject area became a little bit more challenging for our team to define. We wanted to keep our list manageable, but also meaningful to define what types of questions students had, especially if we saw a peak in inquiries regarding a specific topic, such as refunds, so that we could become a little bit more proactive about better communication on the front end. We categorized the subjects by specific areas that the one-stop department services, including financial aid, registrar, and student accounts. And within each of those areas, we've identified subtopics such as awards under financial aid, refunds under student accounts, and so on. And then we offer several other categories simply because we receive so many inquiries in our office. And now Mary will walk us through another way that our counselors record an interaction using case management.
So on, on this slide, as Linda mentioned in the previous slides, logging a call is a quick interaction with a student or guest. On the other hand, cases are a little more difficult and need a lot of research, can be created by a counselor, and perhaps we might need some information we can't get from a partner office for an hour or so, or sometimes a day or two of research. On this slide, we can see Shane's cases that have been opened. We can also open a new case within this section. So the next slide, I'll go through the various fields that a one-stop counselor will need to complete and create a case. Many of the fields, as you can see, are similar to logging a call. However, there are a few differences. We're going to go with Shane's mom calling again, and of course we've already verified that we can talk to her on FERPA. And her question is about a C flag issue on his FAFSA. That does require a little bit more interaction with financial aid, trying to figure out what they exactly need. So one-stop counselor would fill in, Shane's name is pre-populated when we go into creating the case. The student representative would be Shane's mom. The next to that, how we would get a hold of the representative or Shane's mom via phone or email. In the additional information box, the status would be, is it open? Is the case in progress? Does it need to be escalated to a supervisor, or is it waiting on a partner office? In our case here for this demo, it's an open status. How she got a hold of us would be a phone, and then what type. Most important in our demo purpose here, it's a financial aid related question, and it's regarding the FAFSA. So we would select the type as financial aid, the reason as FAFSAs. We do have other options built for us in the type, such as registrar, student accounts, admissions, collections, advising, and other. Reasons, each of the types has a group of reasons below them, and the subject would be a brief description of the question, and in the description box could be the detailed information about the question Shane's mom had asked, what One Stop plans to do to help answer her question. We would then save the case and start researching. The next slide shows the case is completely filled out with all of the pertinent details. However, there are times when a one-stop counselor would need to assign the case to a supervisor, partner, or a partner office. Can be done very easily by selecting the case owner and changing the owner. The new owner can then follow up with Shane's mom and close the case, or if she has other questions, the owner can then assign the case back to the previous owner. We'll resolve it, and the case can then be closed. So the final of this demo tells the story of our open cases. Every day, Linda and I review this screen looking for cases that haven't been resolved. And we can reach out to the counselors to offer our help in resolving, or determine with the counselor if we do need to go to another office for assistance. So that is this is the end, the conclusion of our Dream Screen demo, and I'll turn the presentation back over to Virginia.
Thank you so much. All right, so we are going to have some time now to take some questions. And in order to get us your questions, please go ahead and type the message into the chat box. But I also want to remind you all that we're doing another webinar on June 9th with our partners at the University of Colorado. And here's the information on that. So we'll be talking about achieving data-driven marketing and automation using the Marketing Cloud and Salesforce. So feel free to register there. We would look forward to talking with you more about that. And I also want to extend a very big thank you to our friends at CSS for their time and attention to this presentation and sharing the amazing solution that they have allowed us to help them build. Okay. So let me see our questions here. One of the questions I've received is, for CSS, how big is your one-stop staff?
This is Linda. I'll answer that. We have 5 dedicated counselors in our one-stop area. We have a unique one-stop umbrella. We oversee student accounts as well, but the counselors themselves, we have 5 dedicated counselors, as well as an associate director and a director. But the 5 counselors do the majority of the utilization of Salesforce.
Okay, thank you. Here's another one. What email tool are you using? And is it different than just native Salesforce?
We use Gmail as an institution, and we have something set up where when we implemented Salesforce, each user is able to set up a BCC so that any email that they might send to a student, they can BCC, and it attaches to the student record in Salesforce.
All right, thanks so much, Roberta. We did receive another question about will we be sending the slides, and yes, we will, as well as the recording of this presentation. I know we touched a bit on user adoption, but one question is, how hard was it to get your staff to adopt to the new system?
I think it was a very easy transition for us. We spent one day in a training workshop. We had to split the day in morning and afternoon because we can't be away from the office. So took turns in the training, and I would say by the end of the day we had counselors offering suggestions for using Salesforce. Honestly, by the end of that day, it's so easy to dive into and navigate and learn. So I think the adoption went well.
I think also one thing that Linda did for all of us one-stop counselors is she kept us informed of every step along the way, and I think it just helped build that excitement and anticipation, and I think people here in our office were excited to get to use it.
And this is Roberta. Kind of the model that we've followed throughout all of our Salesforce implementations here at the college is that the users from the functional areas who are on our project teams take the responsibility for providing the trainer training for the staff in their departments. And that's what we did with One Stop and the online advisors, and we did that in the enrollment management area, and that seems to work really well because, you know, those are the people that are working in those areas, and they can help their peers understand how to use Salesforce.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Another question we just received is, do you have faculty members, faculty advisors with access to the Dream Screen, or is it only for staff, and is there a future plan to expose some of this data to your faculty?
Yes and yes. This is
Great.
Roberta. We do have a few faculty who, in our School of Business and Technology, who are actually Salesforce users right now. We have a few staff in our academic advisement area who are users and just starting to get into it, and we do plan to expand the usage into, you know, faculty and staff advisors that are not currently in it.
Okay, thank you, Roberta. One other that I think will be for you, Roberta, is how often is data from Banner coming into Salesforce? And is any of that bidirectional, or is it all one way?
It's currently our integrations are all one way from Banner into Salesforce, and for the one-stop online solution, I believe it's running every 15 minutes. Our enrollment management solution, we are only integrating once a day right now.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, do you have any appointment scheduling that you're using right now? So are you using anything to schedule appointments with students?
No, we don't. We're not using anything.
Okay.
Not any scheduling, no, not at this time.
Okay. Let's see, I've got a couple more here. Besides Banner as well as Salesforce, are there any third-party tools that you're using to support this process that we just saw?
We do have a SMS texting tool that we're using in Salesforce. And the local time app is an app that we installed in Salesforce.
And there is a map as well. We have a mapping one too, map where the location of the student is at.
We are,
the pictures.
our marketing department uses Eloqua, and so on the enrollment management side, we have integrations between Eloqua and Salesforce for that purpose. Other than we did the homegrown application into our Banner document management system, where we're displaying those images into Salesforce and providing a login into the system for things that we don't display.
Okay. Thank you very much. One question I have here is, are students able to track their cases online? And if not, is there any plan to allow them to do so in the future?
Currently, no. We do not have that capability. And I think that as we expand Salesforce use here at the college, we anticipate that we'll see a growth in the use of case management as we get more users using Salesforce and using cases. And so I think that, you know, eventually we will allow students to track their cases online.
Okay. Here's one that says, how did specialized counselors train or retool to become generalized counselors? Does that make sense?
Yes. So Linda, how did your counselors, you know, when we formed the One Stop, the counselors were brought in from all of the different partner offices, And so how did they train to become one-stop counselors with the knowledge of all the areas that you serve?
Well, initially, when we became a one-stop department, our training really became cross-functional, cross-training, train the trainer from the specialized areas. We really did a lot of the training ourselves before we launched our one-stop department. And of course, at that time, we didn't have Salesforce at our fingertips. So, Salesforce has really become instrumental in helping us stay on top of different areas. But initially, it was just training the trainer.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I have one more. Was getting approval for some of the data that you're currently taking from Banner into Salesforce that may be perceived as sensitive, was that a difficult process? And how long did that take you to get those approvals?
No, it wasn't really a difficult process. We did have, the most concern expressed from the financial aid area, and we did have a member from the financial aid staff on our project team. But basically, the group that the online counselors and the one-stop counselors already had access to see that data. So it really was a non-issue. Now, as we expand, it's becoming more of an issue in terms of we've added coaching staff into Salesforce now, and we're starting to, run into areas where we've got to be a little more concerned about what, they can see versus what someone else can see. So we're managing that by building, and I'll get this wrong because I always do, but building roles, profiles, and David will have to correct me, building roles and profiles within Salesforce, and, then defining what each of those is allowed to, what they're allowed to see within Salesforce.
Okay, thank you. I only have one other question, unless someone wants to post another one. Have you seen an increased satisfaction from students? And if so, how are you able to measure that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't done any official surveying of students, so, in asking that question, so I don't have any, firm data to support anything, but anecdotally, I know that students are pleased with the ability to get a quick response, quick answer. I can't tell you how many times students have been thrilled when they come to the front counter and we can utilize the picture that we see in Salesforce to verify their identity and see that we are talking to the person that they claim to be. Can you think of anything else, Mary?
Yeah, I think the one thing is we don't have a certain set of student populations that one counselor deals with. We actually can service or help all 4,300 students plus. So if a student calls and gets me, for example, one time, I record the interaction, but the next time they call, they get another counselor. That person or that student doesn't need to tell his whole story again. We've got it in the interaction, and I think that is really helpful, that students don't have to be frustrated to say, well, I just told this, 2 days ago to another person, can't I have that person? So I think it's been really helpful. There's a little bit less frustration of having to tell their story over and over.
Yep, which is a perfect fit into the entire one-stop model and concept. So, not only does the student no longer have to re-authenticate or revalidate their story, but we have that access at our fingertips, and we're able to help them immediately.
That's great. And I did receive one more. Is there any data other than what's coming from Banner being imported into the system? Do you have any other integrations running?
I can't think of anything. I think all of our data comes through Banner right now.
Okay. How long did it take us to implement this? David, Roberta, you can touch on that if you'd like.
So we started the project in July and worked internally here to define our needs and requirements, and then actually made our selection, I believe, in January. We had our on-site with ACF in late February, and we were live by the end of June. So we worked really fast, and we were in contact with David, you know, at least once a week, and oftentimes 2 or 3 times a week we had calls as we went through the iterative development process.
Yeah, and I also I wasn't dedicated to this project, so you know, my time wasn't 100% during those months either. So it was pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a rather quick turnaround. So those are all the questions we have. I want to, again, just thank you all from CSS. It was a pleasure to work with you on the project as well as put this presentation together with you all. And we're really excited about the success that you've been able to achieve. We will be emailing the recording as well as this presentation out. And again, just one more plug. We thank you all for attending and taking time out of your busy schedules. Next webinar is scheduled for June 9th, and that will be with our partners at the University of Colorado. And we'll be talking about data-driven marketing and automation. So again, we thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.